All right, good afternoon, everybody. As I said this morning, I wanted to do a relatively quick pod just to talk about the Grayson Rodriguez game yesterday and, selling picks and just a couple different things. So I figured before the Orioles game started, I'd blab here for about 5 to 10 minutes and hopefully it makes sense to you guys. And anyway, so here we go. Grayson Rodriguez over under 16 and a half outs yesterday. That was my bet. And before I talk about what happened yesterday, just so I hope that this is clear to people. And again, if anything's not clear, you have any questions about anything, you always message me. I try to answer as soon as possible. But yeah, just message me and I'll answer any specific questions. There's no dumb questions. That's the whole point of the rebrand of this company. It's going to be primarily focused on coaching and educating. So anyway, when you're doing pitcher prop bets, you can do over under walks, over under hits, over under runs, over under outs recorded, over under strikeouts. So those are the prop bets that are available to you when you're doing pitcher props. And every day, that's why I really believe, and I said this, I'll keep saying it. If you're not watching the games, if it's not, you're not spending a lot of time on it, you're really just guessing. You're trying to find a couple metrics that make sense, but you're really guessing. And even if you're watching it as much as I'm watching it and following it, there's still guessing involved, but you're more informed than if you're trying to handicap 10, 15 different teams. Anyway, back to the Orioles. Yesterday, Grayson Rodriguez over under 16 and a half outs. The things that you can bet on, strikeouts, walks, hits, all those things that I said, they're all losing bets for Grayson yesterday. He did not get as many strikeouts. I think it was 5.5, whatever it was, strikeouts. He didn't get enough of them. He gave up too many walks, too many hits. The hits might have been close. I had to double check it. But the point is having the over for the outs recorded and him getting there, makes me look good as far as, hey, that's the right bet where some of his other props didn't hit. But if you watch the game, and this is why I said in the little blurb this morning, when you're selling picks, you can't be fully honest with the customer because you're pretending like you're better at sports betting than you really are. This is really, really, really hard to do. And yesterday is the perfect example because I know a lot of people watch the game because the Orioles got the 17th out on like a little league style was a line drive to Santander, but there's a guy on first for the Yankees, and he thought Westberg was going to catch it. Excuse me, and he didn't. So he got a late start, and Gunner somehow, yeah, I don't even know what Gunner's doing. He's just unbelievable. But he stretches all the way out. Santander throws him out. Santander throws him out. We get the 17th out. We win the bet. So if I'm selling picks and somebody didn't watch that, which most people, if you're selling picks, you're not selling it necessarily to just Baltimore people. So most people aren't watching the game. They don't know how you got your outs. You're able to call them or you're able to sell them the next day by saying, hey, not only did I win the bet, but look how smart I am because I didn't bet his strikeouts. I didn't bet the walks. I didn't bet, I hit the over on the outs recorded and I didn't hit the strikeouts, right? Like if I would have done that. So I had all this insight, blah, 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 blah. And it's hard for the other person. And what I really want to focus on is the psychology of what happens when you start buying picks or following people, because it's hard for that other person when they're hearing that to do anything but believe you because they just won money. So if you really think about what kind of triggers are going on and how our brains work and how we respond to people and who we trust, when you have somebody where you're like, all right, I gave him my credit card information, I gave him my name, I trust this person, they give me a bet, I then go and bet my own money on the game and it wins, it's really hard to not call bullshit the next day. And so as a sales guy, the number one thing you want to do is keep selling somebody, keep selling somebody, keep selling somebody. And you want to make it sound like you're better than you really are. And that's the hard part about this industry. That's what this rebrand is focused on, is how do I help people basically just bet themselves, right? Like it'll sound a little silly because I'll have 4 or 5 people during football season coming on here, giving out their games, like Jack's doing right now, the way I'm doing with the Orioles games with confidence and reasons. And this is why you should bet. But the overall message of the company is going to be, you should listen to that. I want you to listen, obviously, right? I want you to be here, but I really want you to bet your own games. Like I'm trying to be, I don't want to say the only place that you go for sports betting information. I like it to be the case, down the line, but I get that people are going all over the place to get sports betting information. So if I can be the spot where you're going to get the truth, and frankly, the interpersonal relationships that I look to develop with the people that want to actually have conversations with me and really get into the weeds of sports betting and see if there's different strategies that work for them and just understand the industry more. I'm going to be happy to do that, because the number one thing is you can't follow anybody. And I'm a perfect example. Think after yesterday, so I'm 37 and 24. It makes me like super happy. I feel great about it. And I would never tell somebody to look at my bets today and just bet whatever I write. Just doesn't make any sense. It's not, it just, it's not how sports betting works, right? Like if I was, there's no such a game that somebody is 100% sure about that you should just blindly follow them. So I'm hoping, and the whole point of having Jack right this second and a couple other people that I'll bring on board, when the time's right, because again, I don't want to bring anybody on board who's not going to help out. And the only way you can help out, obviously, I want them to win. Like that'd be great. But more than that, there's going to have to be reasoning behind the bets. There's going to have to be a strategy that you at least believe in. And with Jack, yeah, I'm curious to see how it develops. We're going to hopefully do a podcast tomorrow. This is his last. I think he's got like one more week, maybe 2 more weeks left of school. So he'll be on more full time as the summer rolls around. But yeah, his way of doing things, I appreciate it. And I'm curious. I like more so his money management and his philosophy on, seeing if he can find a way to be successful betting on sports, because that's ultimately what we're all trying to do. So anyway, all right, let me shut up. But let's see, one more thing I wanted to get to before I give out the picks, because I'm going to write up what I like with the Orioles. But yeah, there's one more thing I wanted to mention with these player props that, I guess maybe the best way of saying it is because somebody emailed me and said, hey, what's your process for figuring out, which guy to pick? Like what analytics do you look at? And, so I wanted to answer that. And I answered him this way, so I may as well just answer everybody this way with Mountcastle for tonight, because I think he's the perfect example of how you have to decide what analytics to follow. So Mountcastle against lefties, amazing, great stats. I don't have it right in front of me, but you look it up, just fantastic. But against Cortez, who's the pitcher for the Yankees tonight, I think it's 2 for 18. So which one do I look at? Then I can start looking at what are stats in April. Then I can start looking at what are Mountcastle's stats when he's batting at this particular spot in the lineup. Then I can look at Cortez, and I can spend time, and there's so much time that you can spend on it. And that's frankly what Hyde and Elias and all these managers are doing when they're setting the lineups. Like that's the kind of things they're looking at from a gambling perspective. And because it's the Orioles, I'm doing more of a gut feeling, and it's hard to admit that because it's like, well, give me something better than that. Pitchers, I'm doing more of a deep dive on our own pitchers. I feel like there's tons of write-ups on the pitchers, and then they do the interviews after the game, so it's a lot. And then I can kind of formulate my opinion going into their next start as it is. Whereas the hitters, it's more of just watching the games, seeing how I feel on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, it's been better than I've won more on those than I've lost, so that feels good. And hopefully I'll keep it up. But if you're looking for a specific way of doing it, I think frankly, until you get later into the season, when there's more data, that it's hard. Just because you don't know exactly what to look at. And yeah, they've only had so many at bats. All right, that's enough for me. I shall hopefully, well, I'll definitely be here on tomorrow, and hopefully Jack's with me, and we'll do a recap of his performance and just talk about a few things. So have a good night, and hopefully we find a way to win the game. See you guys.